Hello, everyone, and welcome to this important episode of Ignition Time. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the feasibility of universal basic income. I'm talking about recurring stimulus checks, whether this is actually feasible. This was something that was actually proposed by Andrew Yang, who's running for mayor of New York. So, very interesting thoughts from Andrew Yang. In this video, we're going to take a look at some comments from Andrew Yang, who actually ran for president, and what is the feasibility of universal basic income. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time, everyone. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. If you don't know anything about me, check out my video right here. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. Let's now dig deeper into some interesting comments from Andrew Yang as he outlines what is essentially a path, if you will, to universal basic income. Now, in case you're wondering, I want you to know that I need you to think again, and here's why. This pandemic has taught us that there is a fundamental imbalance between the rich and the poor that has been significantly exaggerated by the pandemic. The rich got richer and the poor got poorer. So, this new vision of America, this new vision where essentially the divide between the rich and the poor is reduced with universal basic income, with recurring stimulus checks, is not a new debate. I did do another video outlining a town called Stockton in California that gave some of their residents $500 a month unconditionally, no questions asked. So definitely check out that video and you'll learn about the outcome of that interesting universal basic income in the United States. Now, let's take a look at some comments from Andrew Yang as he was specifically asked on CNBC by Shepard Smith, who's a very good anchor. He was specifically asked, hey, how can you actually pay for all this? What is the actual feasibility of universal basic income programs? And where is this money going to come from? Now, you'll see that Yang points out a very interesting example of Madison Square Garden getting tens of millions of dollars of tax breaks. And that's just one example. But his point essentially is this: the rich should pay more by way of taxes, and helping the poor is not only the right thing to do, but it actually costs the states and the federal government less money if they can help the poor, as opposed to having to worry about unemployment and homelessness and taking care of the poor, which fundamentally turns out to be even more expensive. Very interesting points that make social sense, that make economic sense, that make financial sense from Andrew Yang. Let's roll the tape and hear from Andrew Yang as he speaks with Shepard Smith about the feasibility of universal basic income.
Andrew Yang is with us now, candidate for New York City mayor these days. Former presidential candidate, of course. Andrew, great to see you. You ran on this. It's happening here and there. Between experiments like the one in upstate New York and others, plus stimulus checks, local and federal governments are spending billions of dollars and sending them directly to Americans. Is this a good test of your campaign platform, and do you think it'll catch on?
Of course it'll catch on, Shepard, because we're living it. Right now, tens of millions of American families have seen their incomes either reduced or in some cases completely taken away by the pandemic. And now tens of millions of us are getting these $1,400 stimulus checks that are helping provide a lifeline for millions of families. It makes us stronger, healthier, more secure, mentally healthier, improves our relationships. 55% of Americans are now for cash relief in perpetuity, and 85% are for cash relief during this pandemic.
As a candidate for mayor in the big city, you've proposed what amounts to $1 billion a year plan to give that money directly to the city's poor. New York City is in a world of hurt financially, and you haven't shared specifics on where you'd get the money. Why not? Don't voters have a right to know?
Of course. And we've been very clear about where we're going to get the money, Shepard. You have landlords like Madison Square Garden who've been enjoying massive tax breaks. MSG's tax breaks, $40 million a year alone. If you look at that money and you get it back into the city's hands, plus you invest some level of the city's resources, we can alleviate extreme poverty here in New York City. And the way the city works is that if you keep someone in a more stable situation, they'll actually end up saving public resources, because when someone hits our streets or our shelters, it's very expensive, both on a human level and an economic level.
Now, in the next segment, Shepard Smith asks, hey, is this going to be like a handout? A lot of conservatives think that this is not a good idea. It's more like a handout. And what Andrew Yang says is this. He says a majority of Americans, when they get the stimulus, are essentially going to spend it and inject it back into the economy. Yes, there's going to be some savings, but this is not a handout because individuals will take this money and spend it, and the money will essentially circulate throughout the economy, and this will help the economy. So let's listen to Yang as he pushes back against the belief that this could be a potential handout, against detractors of universal basic income. Let's roll the tape and hear important comments from Andrew Yang, again sharing a very interesting discussion with Shepard Smith at CNBC. Let's watch.
MSG is not going to foot the whole bill for that. I mean, the voters deserve a few more specifics than that, don't you think?
Sure. So if you look at the property tax exempt landlords in New York City, and if they were paying in what they should be for police services, fire services, MSG is just an example. But if MSG is $40 million a year alone, this easily gets into the hundreds of millions of dollars. And New Yorkers know that a lot of these institutions have been essentially getting a free ride on city services for years.
You know, I worked in a place once where they'd call this free stuff and say handouts don't work. I think a lot of people who believe in conservative economic policy would say this is the worst thing you can do. There are some of those in New York City. How do you convince them?
Well, again, a majority of Americans now know that this is the path we should be on, because when this money comes into our hands, where does it go, Shepard? It goes to locally owned small businesses. It goes to car repairs. It goes to sometimes getting a better job or even starting a business. This is capitalism where income doesn't start at zero, which is going to function at a much higher level than if you have millions of Americans who don't have money to spend, can't be consumers, and even can't make ends meet.
So that's it, everyone. Let me know what you think about the entire discussion about universal basic income. What are you likely to do with your stimulus checks? I know that many of our viewers and subscribers, individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, have lost their jobs permanently. Many of our viewers and subscribers simply need the cash to be able to make rent, to be able to put food on the table, and to be able to simply keep the lights on. Now, some of us are going to save it. Some of us may end up investing in the stock market. But let me know in the comment section below what you'll do with the stimulus check and what you'll do if you get some form of universal basic income. In the meantime, I want to show you this article on your screen from Ipsos, which essentially is a marketing and consulting company headquartered out of France. And Ipsos points out that 80% of Americans think that the $7.25 minimum wage is too low. Let's scroll down the article as you see the overwhelming support for the $15 an hour minimum wage, and 56% of our fellow Americans support the minimum wage going up to $15 an hour. Remember, the last time the minimum wage was raised was back in 2009, well over a decade ago, where it was raised to $7.25 an hour. And not only has the minimum wage not kept up with inflation, it has not kept up with productivity. It has not kept up with the fact that every year we tend to become more and more productive at our jobs. So if the minimum wage was indexed to productivity, it should have been well over $20 an hour today. So let me know what you think again about the minimum wage, and more importantly, about the concept of the universal basic income, whether you think it's actually going to help or hurt our economy. Because at the end of the day, what's important is that those who need help the most should get it and should have the flexibility to be able to stand on their feet. Now, interestingly, I mentioned Stockton, California, where they did a minimum wage experiment. In Stockton, California, they found that when individuals had $500 a month in guaranteed income, no matter what, a majority of them actually ended up finding jobs. It helped them psychologically. It helped them get healthier. It helped them make time for themselves, make time for their family, maybe even go out and exercise. And fundamentally, it helped individuals get back on their feet. You have heard me talk about the cycle of poverty before, which is on your screen right now. Escaping the cycle of poverty is very, very difficult. And in order to escape the cycle of poverty, you need a little bit of help, whether it's financial help or emotional or social help, from the right people, so you can get back up on your feet. And once you get back on your feet, the cycle of poverty disappears. And at some point, as you grow, and you know what I'm about to do if you've been following my channel, at some point, as you overcome the threshold from being poor to being rich, from living hand to mouth, and from working for money to having money work for you, it starts to rain money. Because once you cross a certain threshold, this is what starts to happen. But in all seriousness, I urge you to subscribe to my channel, to click like, and also to enable notifications after you subscribe, because I will teach you how to make it rain money. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Let me know what you think about universal basic income in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Check that out. It's still raining money. All right. It's still raining money. I'll see you soon. Bye.